Cameras roll.
Omi tutu.
Ashe.
Omi tutu.
Ashe.
Ona tutu.
Ashe.
Ile tutu.
Ashe.
Tutu egungun.
Ashe.
Tutu laroye.
Ashe.
Tutu orisha.
Ashe.
We give thanks and praises to our ancestors.
Ashe.
We give thanks and praises to those who preserve the mystery of featherless flight.
Ashe.
We give thanks and praises to those upon whose shoulders we stand.
Ashe.
We give thanks and praises to those whose names we know and to those names we don't know.
Ashe.
We give thanks and praises to our ancestors for supporting us and guiding us and protecting us.
Ashe.
We ask for their blessings today as we embark on a new journey.
Ashe.
We give thanks and praises. Ashe, Ashe,
Ashe.
Ashe.
Ashe. I want to get into is a little bit about what we've been talking about here and there. You know, nothing fancy. I'm gonna let Baba Dare just kind of go the way you want to go. And again, you definitely asked to participate. We have a little advantage right here in Houston. Of course, we get to raise our hands, but for you all, you can log in. I think they're able to type in any questions that you have or any response to the questions, commentaries, anything like that. Just let us know. So, without further ado, I want to turn the camera over to Baba Sangodare, priest of Ifa, priest of Shango, priest of Obatala, school teacher in Cairo, mathematician, astro numerical master teacher, known around the Nile Valley as the brother who's bringing knowledge back to the I can't say the Middle East, but back to the Nile Valley. So we want to give him a round of applause. Y'all can clap for him at home.
Ashe, ashe.
Ashe, ashe. We can turn this one on.
Good afternoon.
I was never good at this. Yes, you are. I was.
Is the mic on?
I'm good.
Good afternoon. I'm kind of hoarse here. We've been partying for the last couple of days. It's always good to be back home in Houston. I'm going to be brief today, I hope. Last time I was here, I said I was going to speak up to 10 minutes, and I spoke an hour and 25 minutes.
Ashe?
So hopefully I won't go that long today. I want participation in this class. I plan on taking the mic around the room, and hopefully we won't get cold feet. I look at the board here that Obafemi has up here, this circle with a cross inside. Now, I'm familiar with what he's been going over. You know, some of us look at this and say, oh, that's symbol, or it's symbolic of the Opon. Some people say, oh, it's symbolic of Eshu. You know, we have various meanings. It represents the universe and things of that nature. My first question to everyone in the room and anyone that's on cyberspace listening, I want to ask one question. Why did you come into Ifa? Why did you come into Ifa? And secondly, since you are in Ifa, has your life improved?
Ashe.
And you must be honest with yourself. If you ask yourself, has it improved? If you say yes, I want you to be honest and say why. If you say no, I want you to elaborate on why you think it is no. And the reason I am bringing this up is that I've been many places around the world in the last 3 years. I've been in many temples around the world. We're from Hindu temples to Buddhist temples to synagogues to ancient Egyptian pyramids and temples. And one thing that I've come to realize is that they all have a common theme. It has nothing to do with the God outside of yourself. You know, too many of us, when we talk about spirituality, we are so quick to talk about external forces that lie outside of ourselves. And so I just want to try to reflect on that force or those forces that dwell inside of ourselves. So I'm going to pass this mic around, and hopefully you are contemplating my question. And so I'm going to pass it over to Tosin. And has your life improved since you've been in Ifa? And first of all, why did you come into what we would call Ifa?
A number of reasons. I have been doing a lot of self-healing work 3 years prior to, and from what I learned of Ifa, it was a way for me to know my earthly self better and connect with my higher self, to heal all of the things that have held me back for most of my life.
Is that your answer?
Yes, it is. In short.
Do you think that it was the system of Ifa as we know it that has helped you, or was it something that you probably were developing on your own in the first place?
Well, I think I had started on the path and truly not knowing that what I was studying was Ifa, because it was the study of nature and the study of myself. So in learning more about nature and knowing more about signs and symbols, that's what the missing piece was for me, was the signs and symbols, and knowing and hearing the whispers and hearing the messages and connecting with my ancestors, because they have been calling me from the beginning, through dreams and premonitions and so on and so forth, but not knowing what that was and how to put context to it. Now I know exactly what that is. And before, it just was things I would hear, things I would see, and I thought I was, I grew up as the odd child, so
yes.
Feeling that, my imaginary friends were not really imaginary friends and were actually my ancestors leaving me messages, it gave me a fuller sense of who I am.
Good, good. Next individual.
What's the question?
What is Ifa to you? Why did you come into Ifa? And has your life improved because of it?
Okay. I came to Ifa for a better understanding, I think, of myself. I think I was searching, and I never felt fulfilled in my search. And then I don't think I was even searching for Ifa per se, but I think I was searching, and it made me open to it. And then in that process, it's just wanting to get better connected with myself, a better understanding, and it felt differently.
So would you say that Ifa to you, or for you, has been like a self-reflecting aspect for you to see who are you, or who you really are?
It has been.
It has been. So it's almost like it's almost like being a personal shrink for yourself.
It has been.
Okay. Has this improved your life?
It absolutely has improved my life.
Could you elaborate for us, please?
It kind of gave me an idea. It gave me more direction and more clarity, and it opens up a space for me to. It provides me with resources.
Yes.
That are more tangible for me, in a sense. But it provides resources for me as a guidance.
You see, I want everybody to get involved, because when, how people they go to church and are Christians and say they want to testify about Jesus. Well, I want people to testify about the system that they're in, because if you cannot articulate how a system has improved your life, why do you need it? And so that's all I'm doing, because what we're going to get to today, we're going to zero in what we are really doing. It's not about how many Orisha songs you know. It's not about how many Odus you can chant. It's not even about knowing how many verses that go with the Odu. It's not even it's not even to the point of being deep. It's about knowing how to practicalize something, improving your life, and expand it.
It's a personal. It's been very.
It's a personal journey. It's a personal journey, And so I'm going to pass the mic over to my godson back there, and I want him to testify how Ifa has improved his life.
Quick.
In the hot seat, brother.
Well, first giving on to the Babalawos.
Oh, my.
What has Ifa done for me? Has it been effective? Absolutely. For me, Ifa is essentially it gave me a way to look at myself from a perspective that I knew intuitively that I needed to, I just didn't know how. And so for me, Ifa is that resource, is that tool that gives me the opportunity to look in the mirror when I need to get something done. When I need to see something that I can't see. And I think the most important thing for me with respect to Ifa is Ifa helped me to see. It helped me to understand that everything is nature. You know, functioning, whether it's well, let me say this. When we set out to assign whether something is good or bad, whether it's up or down, it's our mind, it's our construct that determines that. And so Ifa helped me to understand that I can shift that perspective. I can shift how I see things, and I can shift that energy. But it's all up to me. And so for me, that's pretty much in a nutshell. That's what Ifa did for me.
All right, we have, I think I'm going to take one more.
Miss Tammy Cole.
All right.
Miss Tammy Cole.
The only day where you know show up to class.
All right, again, I'm going to restate the question. The question is, what is Ifa for you, or to you? Has it improved your life? And why?
First of all, I'm going to start off by saying what led me to E5. And that's just an inert feelings that I've always been having, and I always wanted to know why I needed the answer. Go to church and they shake your finger and tell you, don't you question the Bible? Well, I was introduced to E5 and I received the answers that I was looking for. So I'm here. It's stuck. Has it improved my life? Yes, that's why I smile so much. I received the answers, and like Sister here mentioned, she has tangible materials that she can use to help her in her path. So, yes, E5 is great.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you very much. All right, I see the underlying theme of all of this is that people, one thing they said there was an opportunity to self-reflect. Another thing was people learned about different signs and symbols that gave them an insight of maybe what nature was trying to tell them. One of the things that I want to talk about today, very briefly, is that Ifa for me, it's not, you know, some people say Ifa is nature. Some people say Ifa is everything. Some people say Ifa is destiny. The thing that I want to use today for what Ifa is to me is your mind. Is your mind. When I look at this board here, coming from a universal perspective, not from a Yoruba perspective, but from a universal perspective, this symbol was a representation of the mind. Of the mind. So when we see, it looks like, when we say, oh, this is the Opon, we may say, oh, this is the symbol of Odu, this is the symbol of Eshu, this is the symbol of the 4 Odus, this is the symbol. In actuality, it's just talking about your own mind. And so, I would want us to understand how the mind works. You know, people will say, okay, I got this implement, I got Shango, I got Ogun, but always remember, these are nothing more but signs and symbols and subtle ways to tap in to this power of the mind. And so, always remember that you are the one that have the power inside of yourself to change things. You have the power inside of yourselves to move energy because you are pure energy yourself. So when you go through prayer, when you go through meditation, when you praying with your King, it's nothing more but a way to utilize certain signs and symbols to move things in places that you want them to go. That's all it is. And so when people say it's not working, I don't know what's wrong, issues coming to get me, and it's very, we speak about Ifa in very anthropomorphic ways. But we must understand it's nothing more but Africa's way, antiquity's way, to articulate scientific principles in a very basic way. If I start talking about alpha, beta, delta, gamma, and I start talking about psychology, people may become fearful because they say, oh, this is too deep. But if I start talking about Shango, Oshun, and start talking about or articulating the attributes of these Orisha, that is no different than what Carl Jung was talking about when he went to India and he went to Africa and brought it back to the New World and said, oh, these are called archetypal energies. Right. When in actuality, that is the same thing that we talk about in Orisha worship. But to understand the power of Ifa is one thing. But to experience it consistently is another thing. So my suggestion to anybody that comes into Ifa is to learn how to practicalize this system anywhere, wherever you are. No matter if it's in Houston, no matter if it's in Chicago, no matter if you are across the world without any implements. The most powerful thing you have is not an King. It's not an Eshu tray. It's not Ogun implements. But it is your mind. It is your mind. And every ritual, every prayer, every meditation you do is just your way of tapping in to consciousness that will enable you to get what you need. Because the most important Orisha is who?
Ori.
Your Ori. This is the symbol of the Ori. This is the symbol of the Ori. So, as they say in Africa, if you want things to come to pass, if you want money, if you want prosperity, if you want wealth, if you want good relationships, call on your head. Well, I'm going to go further. Don't just call on your head. Write down what you want. Subtly suggest what you want. You can call on your head all day long. If you do not work toward, in a reasonable fashion, toward what you say you want, it's not going to happen.
Sure.
So you have to understand the science of this system. You have to understand the science. I mean, yes, it's nice to know the Orisha songs, but the power in it is understanding why you're singing it.
Sure.
It's nice to know, oh, my head is this, but it's power in understanding why you're doing it. So, That's all I have today. I just want you to understand. If you want to understand how to practicalize the OIDSI, besides just head rogations, besides just praying with your king, I advise you to meditate on a daily basis. I advise you to write down what your goals are. I advise you to visualize what you want to come to pass. Not just visualize it, but write it down. Not just write it down, but work toward it. Once you can see it, once you can envision it and write it down and work toward it, it automatically has to start coming to pass. But it is your mind. It's not a palm tree. It's not a palm nut. But it is what these things represent. That you have made an agreement with in your mind that gives it power. Ashe? Ashe. Obafemi, you got a question?
Yeah, I got a question. As a student of E5, I want to thank you, teacher, for helping us with that understanding of it. But I have a question. So, if I don't have a cola nut, if I don't have palm oil, if I don't have gin, and I need to go to my king, or I need to send, what do I do based in regards to what you're saying?
I give an example. Let's say I don't even have OIDSI. Let's say I'm just a Negro walking down the street, and I don't have OIDSI. I got a mama. I got a daddy. I could say, I, Christopher Willis Brown, the son of Dorothy Marie Willis Brown, I call upon my spirit. I call upon my mind. I want for this to come to pass. I start writing down the things that I want to come to pass. If I want to go to a particular destination, I write down that destination. If I think that I'm going to need a car to get to my destination, I write down I'm going to need a car to get to my destination. If I think that I'm going to need gas in my car to get to my destination, I write that down too. In other words, I am going to write down the necessary steps that I believe at the time, because we don't know everything. We can only go by what we think or what we know at the time and work toward that goal. One of the best elbows, I believe, for people in America, for young people in America, is not a goat, it's not a chicken, it's not a pig. One of the most important elbows or sacrifice for young people to make in this day and time is school. Is an education. Because automatically, for you to go to school, that is a sacrifice. That is your way of developing a skill. How many people you know in this world that are successful and don't have any skills? You have to have some form of skill. Even a rapper, a musician, without any formal training of education, they have a skill that is in demand. But I guarantee you that skill that they have, it took them time to develop that skill, to be able to be in demand for that skill. So the most important thing I would say for young people is an education. So they work toward that particular goal. So that's the most important piece that I would say. Not the goat, not the pig, not the lamb, none of that. That helps, that gives you, that's more of symbology, more of putting more energy behind the real sacrifice and the real elbow, which is your own works and deeds. Did I answer your question?
Yeah. I was just thinking, because oftentimes people feel as though they cannot complete a lot of people feel as though they can't complete a prayer or an offering because they don't have the right materials. And so one of the things we've always tried to get people to understand is that before you get to asking Orisha or things, or what they want, you should always consider what you have at your disposal. Because if Orisha say, I want this and I want that, and you can't get it, your confidence is shot. So one of the things that it is important is to develop, and we say this all the time, you got to have an idea of what you want. You got to have some inclination of where you want to go. And more so importantly, in the natural order of things to come into existence, it's based upon a reciprocity. Meaning, if I give you something, or if I give something, something will come back to me. So even if you're just going to visit the ocean, I would reach in my pocket, get some pennies. If you ain't got nothing, you can at least pick up 7 seashells that have washed your boat, pray with them, and at least give them back to where it comes from, to have a reciprocity. That's how powerful your mind is. Because what we're really getting people to see, and a lot of people are seeing, is that, wow, I can really see my ashe, or whatever it is that's shifting and changing. And as we was telling one of the young sisters today in her itai, how important confidence is. And see, the mind actually doesn't lack the confidence. It's your inability to interpret what you see and the construct that you're in that is limiting your vision of seeing it. Now, so that sounds very analytical, but the thing of it is, if you can't fully see yourself having something or being something or doing something, guess what? How can it come into its totality if you can't even see it all the way? So you have to have the vision to be able to see it. And it starts in here first. Remember, this is a construct. It can't invent anything new. The brain can't invent nothing new. It can mimic what it sees. So if you don't see it, guess what? It can't mimic it. You can feel it sometimes more than you can see it. But it's about that coming together. That's what we talk about, proper alignment. And so if all you got is a glass of water, which is the most receptive of all elements, that's why water is used more in any culture ritualistically. Even the people that's at church right now, I guarantee you somewhere around that pulpit is some water for baptism. If you go in the Catholic church, it's going to be right there when you walk in. If you go in any other churches in the back behind the pulpit, there's some water. And that is the thing we use mostly for anything.
Could you write what I'm trying to put up here?
Brother, that look like some ebonics.
Look here. I'm trying to put the
Superconscious.
unconscious,
Superconscious.
unconscious, superconscious, subconscious. Yeah, it's 4 different parts.
And also for those people out there who can barely hear, you may not have gotten the memo. We have microphones. There are people in the same city that you in can hear very well. It might be time to upgrade your system. According to the tech rep that came in here and went over, we found out that somebody in Virginia can't hear, but somebody down the street in Virginia can hear.
You got a bionic system.
You might want to start unloading some of the trash in your system, and also working on your audio. You might get some little speakers, because we can't keep talking at the top of our voices. And we got microphones now. So again, it may be your assistant. Ashe? Ashe. So he wrote unconscious, subconscious, conscious, superconscious, and this is the super. If y'all can see this, that what he's written.
And if you notice, you always have 4 aspects. You have 4 parts. It's just like we talk about fire, water, air, and earth, which is 4 parts, but then you also have something that we call ether that gives birth to those 4 parts. It's the same thing with unconscious, conscious, superconscious, and subconscious. It's the same concept when we get into the 4 fundamental building blocks of the universe. You know, they talk about gravity. Now I may be speaking on people's head now, but gravity, weak force, strong force, and electromagnetism. Now I don't know if y'all heard in the last week or so they talked about they've discovered this particle,
Iron
huh?
No, here in Boston.
Yeah. this particle that they isolated and observed the particle that produces mass, or which produces matter, or they call it the God particle.
Yeah.
Okay. So, but if you understand the Yoruba cosmology, the Ifa cosmology, what they're describing has already been articulated in this system. But Western science does not believe it unless they are able to test it and observe it. Okay? But it's always the four parts that's being produced from the individual source. Okay? Yes.
Okay, so the God particle is really not God.
No.
It's a particle.
Yes.
And so with all these telescopes, Hubble telescopes, somebody getting ready to celebrate the 30th, 40th year anniversary of another travel scope. So all this stuff, they got to go way to the universe to see. People like the Dogon already astral travel in their mind to see it, right?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's correct. And the reason they call it the God particle is because it is the source of what caused matter to expand, or mass to come into existence. Like it's like having a bowl of dough and putting the dough in the oven and it expanded to form bread. And so this God particle is the source that they have observed that causes this mass to produce the expansion of matter, which is what the word Ife actually means, to expand.
That's right.
It's the same concept of Egyptos, or Egypt, or Het Kapata, the house that is wide, expanded, matter squared. So that's why they call it the God particle, because it produces, it keeps the things together, or it produces mass. That's why they call it the God particle.
Now, what is there a part of the body that also represents expansion?
Yeah. Let's look at it. The underlying factor in all of this is still your mind.
That's right.
See, because it is the thought that produces. It is the thought that produces, but it is the thought that comes out your mind. So it is the mind that we call Sophia. Sophia.
Go ahead, brother.
Sophia is known as wisdom. But in esoteric science, or we call it Gnosticism in ancient Egypt, Sophia was the mother that sent her son to the world. Notice that it was Sophia that sent her son to the world. So God, from an antiquity standpoint, is feminine. It is what gives birth. So this God particle, they say, it expands. Well, when a woman gets pregnant, what happens? Her womb expands. A man's womb only expands if he's eating a bunch of food. But a woman's womb expands when she's about to give birth to life. So it is through the expansion of your mind that gives birth to the things in this physical world that you want to accomplish. So you must go back to the source of creation, which is infinite mind. Yes.
So, in a sense, this is why Kundalini is important.
Yes.
To expand
Yes.
the mind.
Yes.
And not just the other.
Correct. Because the word tantra, etymologically, means to stretch, or to prolong, or to expand. So, and always have in mind, Tantra is not just sex. Tantra is an entire system where the one single methodology is sex. But the other methodologies is dealing with what we call mandalas. This is a mandala. And Odu is a mandala. That is why you take your Iking, invoke your Odu, which is a mandala, which is a representation of your mind. Not the universal mind, but your own individual consciousness. Your own individual Ori. If my Odu is a Jogbe, okay? Well, If I invoke Ejiobe, and that is my Odu, I am tapping in, or I am aligning with my own personal Jesus Christ. Not some man, but my own Jesus Christ, my own consciousness. That is your own personal mandala. So this here is nothing more but it's a mandala. It's a representation of the mind. But your Odu is a representation of your own individual blueprint. So if you don't know your Odu, you can invoke your own personal name that your mama gave you. The time that you were born, the day that you were born, the month that you were born. And you invoke that energy and align up with that energy, because automatically when you line up that energy, you're always going back to the womb that gave birth to you. And when you go back to the womb that gave birth to you, you automatically are tapping in to your higher self. Your higher self. So it is always your mind. It's always your mind. So if things are not going right for you, it's your own self. If things are going good for you, it's your own self. If things are going so-so for you, it is your own self. Does anybody remember what I taught them last year when I was here? What is psychology? Does anybody remember? Does anybody know what psychology is?
Study of the mind.
The study of the mind, the study of the soul, psychology, the study of the psyche.
Psychosis.
Does anybody know who is Psyche? Anybody know who Psyche was in Greek mythology?
Psyche.
A goddess, right? Does anybody know who her mate was?
Morpheus.
Jesus.
Well, what I want you to do, when class is over, I want you to study Psyche, Eros, and I want you to study Pan. For anybody who wants to see the picture, I have the picture of the statue from the Archaeological Museum in Greece of Aphrodite with Eros and Pan. Note I said Psyche, but I want you to study Aphrodite, Eros, and Pan, and then go back and study Psyche. All of this is dealing with raising energy and expanding your mind. Because remember, what is wisdom? What is wisdom again? Or what is
Sophia?
Sophia is wisdom,
Mother.
right? So, and Sophia is the mother. And what does she do? She does what? She sends her son to the world. But what is thought? What is thought? Thought is the child of the mind. In ancient Egypt, we had something called, or someone called Tehuti. Some people call him Thoth. All of this, now this is from a Kemetic standpoint. Thoth, Jehuti, is pure thought. Thought comes from the mind. But remember, Jehuti was known as the god of all the arts and sciences and writing. If you look at writing, art, and sciences, what the hell is left? Jehuti is the god of all of the arts, all of the sciences and writing. But it is thought that comes from the mind. But Jehuti is known as the god of wisdom. But true wisdom is feminine, not masculine. Thought is your ideas that's coming from the mind. It's propagated. That's what makes it masculine. But it has to give, something has to give birth to it for it to come to pass. Case in point. You have the mind, you have thought, and then you have light. When you study occult psychology, the occult just means the hidden. When you study occult psychology, they will tell you in your mind, when you have a thought, it produces light. It produces light.
Yes, it does.
Okay? In ancient Egypt, light was the god Ra.
Yep.
Ra is known as light. But before things can solidify as we know it as the universe, it was light that was produced by photons that comes out of the Big Bang, which is within the Big Bang. Boom! And they say it is that God particle that produces mass, causes the universe to expand, and bring it into today's form as we know it. So, your own individual Big Bang starts in your mind with a thought, an idea, and you say, you know what, I want this idea to solidify. I want this idea to expand. But for this idea to expand, your thought must be continuous. And you must invoke Ogun, which is work, which clears the way for your idea that came from your thoughts, from your mind, to manifest into fruition.
Well,
Does everybody understand that?
Share.
say,
Am I clear?
I think so. I'm just playing.
Any questions on that?
so going back to the Big Bang.
Yes, sex. It's an orgasm.
Man, see? Nasty Bible law.
We interrupt this broadcast.
We interrupt this broadcast. Well, not so much in regards to sex, but in the process of thought or the Big Bang, when people say, hey, I got a big idea, a lot of times we get excited
Yes.
to the point to where we start running with it in our head. We start going on a tangent even with the idea. We see it going big and big in our head. What is the biggest downfall? I mean, because you brought up a good point about we invoke Ogun for the work.
I know where you're going. Like say for instance, when you have a thought, or somebody comes to you and says, you know what, let me plant this seed in you. Let me plant this seed in you. If I plant a seed in the earth, but I don't water it, I don't nurture it, how can that seed turn into a tree? How can that seed produce? How can that seed become a plant? I have to be able to cultivate it. But before this seed is planted, I must cultivate the ground.
Yes.
I must create a situation that makes this ground fertile. Okay? So when I plant this seed, I must continue to nurture it, continue to work the grounds for this thing to produce. So if I plant a seed, but I don't have the Ogun, which another feminine counterpart of Ogun is Yemoja, which is nurturing. So nurturing is also working. Together they start things to grow. Okay? But before those things came into fruition, it was the desire for you to plant that seed before you plant that seed. Well, the desire is Osho. So that desire to be successful, that desire to want to make things come into fruition is what truly produces the seed. Or it draws the seed in the womb. That desire. But that desire comes about because they want to accomplish a particular goal. That is destiny. That's my fault. But anyway.
Now somebody just texted me that they just heard basically something we talked about. Religion is tied to an agrarian concept.
Yes.
And also sex.
Your God, son.
Truly.
True. That's what they saying. They saying they heard agriculture and sex
Yes.
in the same concept.
Yes. Because I always remember When we say it is everything, and everything is connected, that is true. That is why in the Bible, when there was new life, they say Noah became what? A husbandman. He was actually a person who knew agriculture. He was a person who was a farmer. Okay? When you get into ancient Egyptian civilization, the god of agriculture was Osiris. But also in the myth, Osiris is reborn through the sexual act with his favorite wife, Aset, because through the help of Jehuti, she creates a golden phallus and produces the child Horus or Heru. So in the same story of Osiris, which is probably one of the most famous stories we have today, you have sex, and that sex is with the god of agriculture, the one that is green, the green one. Okay? Also symbolically, to show you that agriculture is for, they say, oh, your ground, the earth needs to be fertile for things to grow. Well, fertility is associated with sex because it deals with multiplicity. Okay? But at the same time, I mean, you can't, sex gives birth to everything from a physical standpoint, even if that friction has nothing to do with
Sun and dirt.
I mean, it has to have the polarity, the masculine and feminine energy. But anytime so the easiest way to understand spirituality is to study agriculture, study nature. That is why no matter which system around the world, it's going to be the same thing. There is no system that's better than the other unless they have distorted it and taken nature out of it. That's why all the mythologies, all the cosmologies say the same thing. It's the same exact thing, because you cannot change nature, and you cannot do it. Even if they clone, you still have to use the same principles to create, no matter what it is. And creation only comes about through expanding of something. Through human beings, the female's womb expands. When you want to bake bread or bake something, the dough rises like a mountain or a hill. That's why all cosmologies, all mythologies, all religions, which are all the same thing. There's no difference between religion and mythology. The only difference in religion and mythology is people believe in the religions and still practice it. The people who say it's mythology, they'll say, well, that's what they did in the past. But mythology and religion is the same thing. So no matter if you are a Ifa practitioner and you said life began in Ife and the gods came down Ora Hill and they called it Ife when they came down on a chain with a snail shell. Snail shell is the spiral of life, Fibonacci series. And then they took the sand and spread it and the earth expanded. They call it Ife. And they came down a hill. It's the same story. Oh, Shango, he hung himself on a hill, and then he resurrected into the sky on a chain. What's the difference between that story and Jesus Christ dying on Golgotha between two thieves, and then resurrected into heaven to see his Father?
Tell them what Golgotha means.
Golgotha means the place of the skull. It's your head, and it's your mind. The heel in your body is your spinal column. The word column, the word, and what is the most famous symbol of Osiris? The agricultural god? A Djed pillar. What does a column have to do with planting some damn greens? Why? Because where the seed of consciousness is nurtured in your body is in your spinal column. That is your heel. That is your ladder. That is what we call the Tajanian in the ancient Egyptian myth. And if you get into linguistics and etymology, even in Yoruba, it's going to tell the same story. It's going to tell, and you're going to see that the spinal column or the column and climax or sexual climax, all of them have this the words are linguistically linked. So no matter if you're cultivating the ground or cultivating the womb in a human being, it is the same story.
So a climax is just reading the top of the hill.
Correct. As we say in Arabic, we say selam. Selim. It's like a stair or elevating, but it's the same root as the word salam or Islam. And Islam or salam means peace. So they're telling you for you to elevate your consciousness to a peace of mind. I just said it, elevate to a peace of mind.
Yeah.
Islam, salam, selam. Selam is staircase. Salam is peace. And how do you do that? Through meditation, through consciousness, or you elevate your light of your consciousness that dwells in the spinal column. Remember, where did they find Osiris? He was in a coffin inside the trunk of a tree. Well, the trunk is the spinal column that's in the tree. The tree is the spinal cord and the nerves. So everything is still dealing with the human body and the mind. Okay? That's why Isis or Aset was able to do all these things with the help of Jehuti, which represents thought, which comes from the mind. It can never change. It can never change. That's why no religious system is better than the system that you practice. If I claim to be Buddha, or Buddhism, or practice Buddhism, what is the difference in the system that we call Ifa and the system we call Buddhism? What is the difference? Does anybody know? You say it's culture? Geography?
The characters involved, or the names of the characters.
The name of the characters? The environment that takes place?
Your clothes, yeah.
Okay? Or the language. But if you pull back, the emperor has no clothes, and you realize it's the same thing. But what is that commonality? That commonality would be the work of the land,
Yes.
your environment and studying nature, and your own self.
Yeah.
Your own self. So if you are an individual that says, you know what, I want to tap in, I want to try a different method. Are you still practicing Ifa?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. You still practicing Ifa?
Yeah.
It's just called something else. And a few years ago, I shared with someone, there's a system in China. It's called Fa. Fa. Okay, and it deals with character. Okay? And so, what I'm saying is, I want people to understand that Ifa is everything. But when people hear everything, sometimes it can be overwhelming. Sometimes it can be too much to understand. To simplify it, Ifa is you. Ifa is you. And the whole idea is to learn how you learn.
Sure.
It's to learn how you quiet the mind. This person may learn and quiet the mind by just chanting their Odu and praying with the AG. Some people may need to go and talk to their ancestors in meditation. Some people may need to hear chants. Some people may need to look at some mandalas and go inside that way. Everybody is different, but everybody has the same goal.
Is that basically the transcendental state? Is that what they mean by dealing with it? Transcendence? Yeah.
I would say so.
Just whatever your meditation might be, just to reach that particular state of transcendence, where
Yes.
you can just
Yes.
feel the all mind.
Yes, because when you transcend all these things, you come to realize that it's nothing more but infinite energy, eternal bliss. It doesn't, when you talk to real masters, they're not arguing about, are you doing this right or you're doing this wrong? Oh no, that's the wrong prayer. Oh, you can't do that. What do you mean I can't do that? I can do what I want to do. My favorite saying is the only thing I got to do is be black and die. But in actuality, hell, I don't die. I just transition to another aspect of life. So I don't have to do jack. I do nothing. And if I want to say I practice Ifa, but I'm not Yoruba, I can say that. Because Ifa is something I reference from my environment. My holy ground is not the people in the Caribbean's holy ground, because I'm not standing on the land in the Caribbean. My environment is what's holy for me, because, as they would tell you in physics now, our own mind creates our experiences. Our consciousness creates our experiences. Our collective consciousness, our collective subconscious recognize each and every one of us before we consciously are even introduced to one another. So collectively, we agreed to be here on Sunday on July 15th, not June 15th, but July 15th, to sit here and hear this. And I know sometimes I'm just going to keep driving home. It's all in you, no matter how you decide that you want to practice. Whatever way you want to do it, be consistent with it and make sure it makes sense for you. If you are a Yemonja priestess and you say, you know what, I'm going to do this part of my Yemonja type rituals because this is how I was taught, that's a good thing. But if you are an individual to say, you know what, I want to expand and expound on this through based upon experiences I had, then you do that. And if you want to collaborate with others and ask them what they think, listen to them, but don't let them say you're wrong. Don't let them say that ain't African enough. Because really, it ain't about Africa. It's not about Africa. Hell, they don't even know what the name of their landmass is. Africa is a name that somebody gave them. I'm Nigerian. Huh? That's the name. I'm Yoruba. He didn't have that name 200 years ago. That's not even really who you are. I mean, they share an experience.
Wow.
Yes.
Talk about the fear that drives some kind of protocol. You know, the fear of not, if I don't do this the right way, it's not going to, because I think that's what a lot of people deal with.
Yes.
That fear.
That fear.
Yeah.
The only thing you need to fear is fear itself. If you are sincere, now I'm the first one that suggests, like we speak English. First of all, we didn't learn how to speak. We didn't learn to speak English through a textbook. We just start speaking English. We just start speaking any language. When you're a kid, you just start speaking. It seems like all languages are innately in you, especially when you're a child. Nobody said, read this book to speak English, okay? Or any other native language. So, but I do believe it's good to, if you're learning something, have some alphabets. Have some alphabets. In other words, Chris was talking about this fear thing. Get a reference point of something. Work with that. If you have reference points, then you shouldn't fear anything because those are your reference points. Do not be fearful because your reference points are not my reference points.
Where's fear come from? So if like love comes from this part of the mind or this part unconscious, or in states of consciousness, where does fear land? Where's it birth?
It all starts here. It all starts there. Notice, too high to get over, too low to get under. I'm stuck in the middle. Okay?
You're a vegetable.
So, what is this telling you? You stuck in the middle. Get off your ass and do something. And what's keeping you there? Because you're afraid. You're fearful.
So fear is not being able to move from one part of your mind to the other?
I think
Is that where
Fear is the root of what?
You know what I'm saying?
I'm gonna give you a little help with fear. Now we're gonna keep this circle here. Y'all keep that circle in y'all mind.
Now I said I was speaking 5 minutes.
55.
times 5. 5 squared.
Ego. Oh, you know another one. Real. Mm-hmm.
It's at a wheel, man.
Huh?
That's what you got.
Yeah, that's what they got it from me.
That's it.
Because see, false evidence appearing real, again, going back to what he's saying, in your mind, something has attached itself to a virus. And that virus is created on the outside of you. It ain't in you. It's on the outside. So if you say, I want to win an Oscar award for acting, well, we suggest you take some training to act and to do some things. But when someone says, you ain't going to never win an Oscar, you know why? Because you don't look good as so-and-so. Or you don't act good as Meryl Streep. And you get to think, well, I ain't white. So, but that's somebody else's opinion of their own construct, of their own mind, what you ain't. And you are now taken upon as a truth. And because your mind ain't even wired to handle what they just said, you're right there. You're stuck in the middle. You went, oops.
You go right where they took you.
You start comparing something in regards to something you ain't even wired to handle. You take up on somebody else's truth that you ain't this. And guess what? You are that. You are more than that. You can, whatever you just thought in your head, as they say in Zen, we take Zen to take away the intrinsic thinking. Every thought you think is answered.
Right.
So everything you created has the potential. Kyle Chin would give us a reading and say, you can do this. You're going to meet Oprah. You're going to do this. You know what? We had all the little tools to go meet Oprah. But somewhere a block hit. Well, you ain't going to meet Oprah self-publishing. You got to get on New York's bestseller list. Ain't no such thing as Houston's bestseller list. But most of the authors on New York's bestseller list ain't from New York. And most of the books on New York's bestseller list ain't the best books. So in other words, when you hear about these stories, cats coming out of the ghetto, LeBron James, he made it, mama moved everywhere. Rags and riches, Tyler Perry was in a car, Seal, he was homeless. Kim was living in dirt cheap, sleeping in this. How did they get? Because they never got away from thinking of the thing that they can do. They can't do it with the limitation that somebody else has put upon them.
I'm glad.
So they don't even accept that as a truth. When you accept others' evaluation of yourself as a truth in regards to something you really want and they just shot you down, that's your fault. Because they just brought some evidence that appears real to you. It ain't even yours.
To piggyback on that, one of the things he said was the word limiting or limiting. You know, if we call for blessings, if we call for things to come into existence, many times we limit ourselves. When the opportunities come, we automatically start shunning them away because, well, that's not how I envisioned. That's not how I thought my blessing was going to come. I know people that they are called for blessings, and it may come in the disguise of Europeans. I know many black people today, in the name of consciousness, they have so many blessings waiting to come to them. But they limit themselves with just one group of people. You are limiting yourself. I know an individual that's married. She's a sister. She's married to a Caucasian man.
This is hilarious.
Okay, she's married to a Caucasian man.
This is hilarious.
And she's a lovely sister. Man, I mean, the white guy, he's a cool dude. And I say, we were just talking, you know, they traveled, they've been all over the world, probably traveled about 60 different countries. And South Africa came up. And she said, "No, I don't want to go to South Africa. That apartheid, the way they did black people." I'm like, hold on. You are married to this Caucasian man. You, and I said this in front of the Caucasian man and her. I said, you, on the way from the airport, you are a sister, married to this Caucasian man, but you still have so much anger that you won't even want to go to a country that's now run by your people, but you have so much anger that you won't let that go. But at the same time, you marry a white man, and you from America, and you go all over Europe, which were the people that came and took you from Africa to America. So, but that's how complicated fear, anger, and confusion is. It's crazy. And so anytime you have all of that rolled up into one, you're limiting yourself. Prosperity is not rolled up sometimes in how you think it should come. I look at my life for an example. I wouldn't have never thought that I would be doing what I'm doing the way that I'm doing it. I remember when I first got the opportunity, I was like, do I really want to do that? Because it wasn't how I envisioned it. You have people that all of a sudden get into a situation that they tried to avoid, and they thought it was not a blessing, and come to find out it's the best thing they ever did in their life. So don't limit yourself. Don't be so caught up in thinking that you're so conscious that you're stupid. Let spirit lead, and do not let negative energy come as disguised as a spirit trying to help you become more conscious, because it can actually be, I guess, Eshu or Shaitan or whatever term that you want to come with to try to justify not being yourself, but in actuality it is your own limitations that got you in the condition or in the situation where you're still stuck right here. Too high to get over, too low to get under. Stuck in the middle. You a vegetable. A vegetable. Okay? You want to be starting something. You want to be starting something, but you can't move. You're too high to get over, too low to get under. You stuck in the middle. You just want to be starting something, but you ain't did jack.
So fear comes from being stuck in your mind?
Well, it can come from being stuck.
Doubt, insecurities. It could be attached to a lot of the things that occurred to you as a child. It could have been mentally, socially, verbally, sexually abusive.
Well, the reason I ask like that is because, it's like you tell someone not to fear anything but fear itself. But you can't defeat something you don't know where it comes from. So if it comes from doubt, then because I believe in no doubt, no fear. Right. But then when I start thinking about like my conscious, like when I can picture my mind, like you're right, boom, boom. Now where does, hey, that's true, fear. Where do you start at?
Something you never, it becomes something you never experienced.
You look at,
in other words, if someone tells you to go build them a garden full of berries, you could do that. But if someone said, can you show up at MD Anderson Hospital tomorrow and help me remove this cancerous tumor from this person? Now, why would you be afraid of that? Obviously, I'm not the one you need to talk to.
Yeah, I would have to be more honest then to not be fearful. I would have to go,
sometimes people step into things that they have no business into, so that's where the clarity and the focus comes from.
So you falsely use your mind.
Right, and it goes back to what he said initially 30 minutes ago. There are things you have to be conscious of, and how you want to bring things into existence that to expand. So this is where you get systems like E5 help, because they give you something there. It's not everything, but they give you something to work with.
Something tangible.
something, yeah, you know, to just kind of help you get along.
So when you have a fear, that's an opportunity to just realize yourself more than you.
Oftentimes, fear is an opportunity to master
I'll
some
give you a
spiritual
perfect
growth.
example. Let's use something that we can all reference in this room. Let's use something we can all answer in this room. Ogun is known as the what?
Spirit line.
Well, yeah, if you're dealing in the Iron Age.
A warrior.
He's known as a warrior. He's the one that protects you. He's not afraid of nothing. What else does he, Arisha? Work. He's a doer.
A doer.
So let's look at doing things, but you can only do, most times
You're
you
gonna do what you can do, right?
do what you do. If you're not a plastic surgeon, it'll be difficult for you to do plastic surgery.
Sure.
So you can see how fear, because what's the opposite of fear?
Courage.
Love.
Courage.
Love. You don't love, if you love a thing, you can't fear it. But if you fear it, you obviously have no love for it. It's just
That's
a thing.
one aspect of it.
I think love embodies everything. And courage and fear are the opposite poles
The polarity of
in that love. Because I can love dogs. But if that pit bull got loose and came after my ass, shit, I might fear that.
Right.
But that don't mean I don't love it.
You feel the pain.
But I know he locked on my behind. I'm gonna be in bad shape.
Yeah, I see. I see.
But if you've been trained to deal with dogs, you may not fear dogs.
Right.
Or if you've been trained to deal with certain old dudes, and you know if I invoke this and say this in this tone, I can sit his ass down. I don't care if he's a flip or rock. I don't care what it is. I'm sitting his ass down.
So as we're practicing Ifa, and people come upon the fear of change. Here's the dog. Change is the dog. And some of us know how to change and know how to use different mechanisms to change. So if you're dealing with Ifa, because I don't think I've ever experienced any fear, but I could see where I could be fearful. For instance, I could see where if I had to divine for somebody,
it'd be a hesitancy.
If I actually thought I had to play some role to get, that would just be scared. That would just be scary. I'd be like, oh man, I'd be fearful. I would be fearful of that. But that would be me not having the courage to tell someone I'm not a Babalawo, or do this or do that. So I can see how you invite fear.
So it would block you.
The blockages.
Who is the Orisha that removes blockages?
Ogun.
Ogun. Who is the one that removes fear? Ogun. Who is the one that clears the way? Ogun. Who's the one that does the work? Ogun. It's always going to be a connection. You can take psychology, biology, chemistry, it's all connected. But you have to understand the reference points of what you have.
I think
another thing that correlates to that is the misplaced fear. If you're talking about the dog, you're not really scared of the dog. You're scared about the pain that it's going to give you. It's like you're not scared of a gun. You're scared of the pain that the bullet is going to do. So misplaced fear, I think, is also important.
Absolutely.
When you talk about fear.
Absolutely.
Like, what exactly are you scared of?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
For some people, it's some people, and misplaced fear, call it conditioned fear. She's why I'm scared of snakes. When's the last time? Well, I ain't never seen one.
Hello. Right.
Right.
I had that same experience.
We saw a snake in my backyard. Some people screamed, other people ran to it. Why? Because they're conditioned. That's some magic. That's some juju. Baba Todd, who's here, said, he said it. The first thing coming is about get that snake, I need to get paid.
And the other half is fearful.
And the other half ran in other directions.
They conditioned to think that's the devil.
And the snake was trying to get out of our way. It scared us.
So you say, you ain't finna get
Snake going this way, some women going that way, and then the other one say, I need to get paid. So it is an understanding, like I said, have a reference.
So as an Orisha, what is is it meditate? It's finding whatever technique it is to settle our mind, to recognize the blockages, to let go of the fears.
As an Orisha, by its definition of the term, one who studies nature, you're also studying yourself.
Because you're part of nature.
Because you're part of nature. And that's why nature begins to speak to you. You begin to interpret nature, and y'all form this, as I say, an intimacy. Because again, going back, I put the circle up there, I baited him. I knew he would go into it because he even asked me, "Oh, why you put that circle up there?" Well, tell me. See, the thing is that when we started back in January, February, we had a circle up here. And this is why even in Ephism, you got this much information before you even get to old dudes, right?
Right.
Because this is all what goes on in heaven before things come to earth, i.e. manifested. So this is you got to change the way you think and on a consistent basis, because as you say, change is evident. Change goes forward. Change goes forward. That's it. That's how the all or the old dude knows itself. So this is why he and I and some other IWOs will tell you, first of all, everything about your old dude ain't in a book. Why? You still living.
It's still coming.
It's going to reach back and may pick up some stories from 200 years ago, 100 years ago, 50 years ago, 2 days ago. Or it might even show you something coming up that ain't in a book a year from now.
That you're supposed to write down and be a part of a patiki for the future generations.
That's right.
So-and-so was divine for so-and-so on Alabama Street.
He got scared. He went to Ogun and quickly got his courage back.
Brother Will had a question.
You said Ogun is the one that does all these things. When does Ogun become you and not the pot? You go to a pot, you see a pot.
Put the camera on Brother Will for us, please.
I'm done with my question. When is Ogun?
I want you to restate the question for the people out inside the
You ain't got to put the camera.
Come to the light.
Yeah, put the camera.
Okay.
White Claw for talking.
Come to the
Yes, www.
White Claw for talking.
When does Eshu cease to be a rock and Ogun cease to be the pot, and when does it really become part of you?
It's always a part of
It's
you.
always part.
But mentally.
When you realize that you realize that it has been in you the whole time. It's about your awareness. Remember, what is one of the most important things that's above the door when you come into a temple? It could be in Egypt or it could be in Greece. Man know thyself.
I say.
Because man knowing thyself, man knoweth the who? The gods. Right? The gods are the rishas. The gods are the forces inside of you. If man knows itself, he knows the gods because you are the gods. So how can you be an atheist? You don't believe in yourself. The first atheists we know were Christians.
Oh, I see.
Because the word atheist is atheist. And in ancient Rome, the people that did not believe in the Roman gods were the Christians. So the first Christians in ancient Rome, the first atheists in ancient Rome were Christians. They did not believe in the Roman gods. Now, connotatively, we say, oh, he don't believe in God. But the word God just means to pour and give libations. God is not
Character.
Yeah, it's
Person.
I don't believe in pouring water. I'm against pouring water on the ground. But linguistically, when you get to theos, it was associated with plurality, the gods. The gods were a representation of forces of nature. So I don't believe in nature. The reason you have so much confusion out here, people say, I'm an atheist. They say 15% of the American public is an atheist. Well, what they're saying is, I don't agree with your concept or your interpretation. They may not even have an interpretation themselves, but they know they ain't believing that some snake talked to Eve. You see.
Well, let me ask you this here. Is there a connection if one says, I'm an atheist, meaning I don't believe in your interpretation or your methodology or your concept of the God, but yet and still, if God, and you told me this definition before, is really pouring libation, the symbol for the age of Aquarius is a man.
It's a man with a water pitcher, which is symbolic also of the Kundalini energy that sits inside yourself. Is a representation of the Nile River. Okay? So the libations that you're supposed to be pouring for the gods to come is that water. That Nadi. Nadi is river.
The Nadi.
The Nadi is, and when we're dealing with in Sanskrit, it deals with it's flowing like a river. That nadi is an energy channel. That energy channel is the channel that energy. It's what energy channel. It's the channel that energy flows through. Okay.
I think I'm like Will's question, like, so you're Arborisha while you're studying, you're like, all right, teach us theory, and then you get the tools and such, and then you hear the mind talk, and then you hear the spirit talk, and I hear Will's question, I say, okay, so when, and this is not like this is more like, when do you know you're ready, when would you, because that's a careful correspondence there, starting to make those
connections.
Yeah, those connections aren't made with the proper training.
That's why you're supposed to have a teacher.
That's why you're supposed, yeah.
Well, I think that's, you see what I'm saying? This question of when does the pot cease to be,
Okay,
is when do I, and when am I allowed to then,
You will know.
well, I'm just saying.
When the student is ready, the master will appear. Now you have a true master that dwells inside, but that master inside will also at times bring you other people that will assist you on your path, even though it is the true teacher inside that led the physical representations of that teacher inside to you.
Yes,
now, and when you're dealing with the teachings of the ancient Egyptians, what is the eighth? Because you got 10 things.
That answered the question right
You
there.
got 10 things. You remember your teachings, my brother?
The confidence in one's ability to learn, and one's confidence in one's master to teach.
In other words, how if you say, for instance, if you are in OIDSI and you don't have confidence in this Negro to guide you,
Yes.
how the hell are you gonna learn?
Yes.
So one of the most important factors
I'm a bomber for my
Hey, you know why? You know why? Because the whole objective in the path of Ifa is to become your own personal psychiatrist. What is the psychiatrist? You know, the stereotype is you go in, you lay on the couch.
Right.
She relaxes you, and guess what? You end up healing your own self because all she's doing is answering your questions. You're answering your own questions. Answering our questions.
I mean, if you don't have a lot of capacity for an overstanding, you know, where you've taken us in this short hour is already beyond someone who doesn't understand the correspondence of subcon, you know, of this thing. I think Will's question was more something that I've had at times, and it has answered because in Transcendence the answers are revealed.
Yes.
You know thyself. But I do see that question where I'm like, someone's like not paying attention to the ori, the mind, and it's this, you hear the orisha, such and such and such and such, and go to the, and so sometimes you just lose it a little bit.
One of the things, and I got some priestesses in the room, and one of the things that I know is that they know what to do, but when they get to a crossroads, they'll call me, and they will ask a question. You know, okay, some ain't flowing right, I can feel it ain't flowing right, blah blah this, blah blah that. So we'll look at it and we'll go down a different path because, and this is important in regards to you and Will's questions, and that is, a sister was on her way here to a conference, and she said the lady just told her, I wouldn't be able to get on this flight. There's about 5 or 6 people to fill 2 seats. Bob, I need to get on that flight. I said, go in the corner. Get your left foot and make the sign of the cross.
Wow.
And invoke SU and tell me to get on that plane.
Now.
She got on that plane. There was no implement, there was no palm oil, there was no cola nut. She didn't even vote. See, the thing is, she's already had a connection with the stone. And see, what you have to look at in this dimension, you have that which is within, that which was out. You have a spiritual and a physical. You have something that is animate, inanimate, tangible, untangible. For something to happen, you sometimes have to go to its world, pull its essence out, connect it with yours to make it happen just the way it is. It's what I was saying about going to the ocean. The thing is that I know I don't need to go in front of my issue to get everything I need from SU. I know it lives back here. It represents my doubt, fear, and insecurity. If I don't step into it, SU honors me at the crossroads. So therefore, I lose the indecisiveness, the uncertainty, the scatteredness, and the confusion. I keep my clarity. I keep my focus. So I'm not going to get pulled over here into a drama or this, that, and the other. If I invoke SU and I still don't get on the plane, guess what? I'm cool.
Yeah.
And I was thinking,
I don't say, oh, it didn't work. But see, but see, here's the thing. You have to step out of exactly trying to judge it as a right and a wrong. So the implement has to be there as part of you changing, formulating the way you think.
So it's a tool.
It is a tool.
think about
For your mind.
That's it.
For your mind.
And this is what I go all the way back to the concept of E5 itself. We say it is a tool that you use, and these orishas are here to assist you. As Baba Pega said, they're like the unemployed people sitting in the unemployment office, ready for you to put them to work. They're already in you, but because altar also means mind or the high place, for you to get to the high place behind, in the midst of all the crap, crud, garbage, sewage, conditions, fears, insecurities, and doubt. If you can just focus on this to open up that, you're good. And it's a process.
To share something, notice what he said. He didn't tell her, he said, draw a cross. He created a sign or a symbol.
Is that written in a book? No. But you know what I know? It is the sign and the symbol that's already in her. She has a contract with SU to open up ways. I'm just showing you one of the ways you can go to it. You see what I'm saying? Let me know, brother, if I dare ask this question.
All right. Well, it wasn't really a question. It was just adding to what you were talking about. Perfect example. Bruce Leroy, Last Dragon. Master gave him something. He was like, he ripped the dragon off his chest. He said, "You reached the last dragon." No, you need to be my master. No, you need to go find yourself.
That's right.
And you say, okay, well, since you need something to believe in, take this. This was Bruce Lee's.
That's right.
Later on, he found out it was a belt buckle, but it was something that it was a representation, something tangible for him to hold on to, and him to believe in. And then he found out that it was already here. Then he started glowing, right?
That's right.
The master was already there.
So basically, in summary, what you're saying is the implements and tools are an extension of those energies that live within us, and they're there so that we can get consistent with igniting those energies.
Yes. That's why, and going back to Brother LaChris, that's the protocol. One of the things I know about Aborishas and the brothers and sisters that are priests and priestesses, the questions are different because they're not disconnected from their Orisha or their priest class. What they often find is the feedback from the spirit world because of still in a Western state of mind, our condition of how, when things are supposed to happen. And if you can go back, if you can go look at any culture, because I talk to Diary a lot, and we talk about all these different cultures that he goes to around the world, and the one thing every system holds in key is that everything you call for don't always show up like the way you envision it. You have to be okay with that.
Right.
You see? Which in Jalen, going to Brazil, we did Ebo. It came up in EB, well, we came to read, it came up our room, sickness. We did Ebo. We got to go to Ancestors. He was over here the other day, Baba Tony saw him and says, I don't know, it's something about whatever you're going on, there's some sickness around it. So we did Ebo.
Months apart.
Months apart. Jalen didn't make it to Brazil. Now that was two Babalaos, independent of each other's own consultation, said sickness. So Jalen said, I really want to go to Brazil. But there's an element of sickness. Even though the spirit will say, yeah, go ahead and make the elbow. Something is greater than what we can even, as Babalaos, can see. Because Baba Pega said, who will supersede an elbow?
Ancestors.
Ancestors. And that's what it was for his ancestors. They said, no, whatever we want, whatever he's trying to get to, and we want to help him, we are now foreseeing something that's greater than this reading and divination. He don't need to go to Brazil. Why? He's already made sacrifice for long life. So that, and I say, whatever it is, you ain't supposed to go. Jalen, he cool. You know, he took a punch.
At first, he was like, "If I don't work," and I wanted to bring that back to the things that you said in other classes. This is the point where people say, "Well, IFA doesn't work
because you didn't get what you wanted,
because you didn't get what you wanted, or it didn't look the way that you thought it was going to look." Because the greater thing about that is now Jalen has the opportunity to go to Africa and make TEFA. He gets to go to Costa Rica, and he's getting to go to see his grandfather on his 90th birthday, who may not be here next year. So there's a greater reason.
I just want to say, just to answer both of y'all questions, from my experience,
you're choking your wife, man.
I'll be quite honest. Mine wasn't a question.
I know
it's not actual question. It was more of a trying to get the question answered for the folks because I see it being an angst for people. I see it with my eyes visually that I'm Orisha. No, you're Ori. Okay, my Ori. Wait, my mind. Wait. If the elements of energy are in me, then why is my mind not? Okay, you have to tap the rest of you to activate, and it's just a whole high science. When you just stop, you go, okay, that's not simple. Maybe understanding that you are a good person on the inside and that life is that might be easy, but this science you're talking about, okay, this is starting to sound like you might need to have a little bit of education to learn all that. You gotta be able to read, you gotta be able to write, you gotta do math, you gotta be able to figure out all this stuff,
You know the one concept you need? You just need to learn how to get out of your own way.
Oh, shit.
Because all this stuff here, you were born with, wired for, it's in your DNA. The thing of it is that something institutionally has put in a virus. And you just pulling the virus out. African proverb. Now that we have initiated you, you can now go initiate yourself. Yes, sir.
No, that was it. I was you have to trust yourself, and it's all in the definition of where we are right now. We're all operations, so it means we study nature, and so one of the ways you build confidence is by studying nature. You identify what's going on around you, and as those things continue to appear, and you're paying attention, then it just becomes automatic. Okay, I know what's coming. You see something, you see a vulture, you see whatever it is that continues to show up, and so that's your confirmation right there.
Could you
if you're not paying attention, then you're going to miss it.
Could you share if you don't mind, share with the audience and the people in cyberspace on the conversation we had the other day and how we use certain references that you were accustomed to?
Yeah, you talking about the vultures?
Yeah.
Oh. Okay, so I'm driving down the freeway, and I've been seeing vultures for like 2-3 years now. I think by 3 years. I mean, vultures are just always around. And it's funny. The other day I was driving down the street, and I hadn't seen vultures in a long time. I said, man, I ain't seen no damn vultures in a long time. Guess what? Here come the vultures. Here come the vultures. They just show up. So I'm driving down one highway, and there are two vultures. There's one on the left side, and there's one on the right side. And there's circling. They're circling. And so I look at them and I notice, I say, okay. Then I get onto another freeway from that freeway, and I get maybe about a half a mile down, and there's another vulture sitting up on the light, on the night light. It's broad daylight, but this vulture's just sitting up there, and I had never seen a vulture do this in my life. I ain't never seen this shit like this. Anyway, so the vulture is, excuse my profanity. So the vulture is, the lower body is straight, and the vulture is perched to the right, as if he's looking down at me, and his wings are spread wide open. So when I saw that, I didn't know, I'm confused. But it's because it freaked me out, fear set in, and I just never seen it before. So I'm thinking, okay, so this has to be negative, blah, 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 blah. So I called my Baba. And I said, hey man, I just saw this vulture, explain to him, he's half asleep. Wait. He just immediately tells me, go read OIDSI. You got a lot of opportunities around you. He gives me the understanding of the Oshun energy, and basically it was the same feeling or the same thing that all of the other vultures were telling me but because I allowed fear to set in just based on something changed, the unknown, something that I had never experienced before. I allowed that to paralyze me for a minute. And when I went and read the Odu, it spoke to me. I got home, I had a conversation with my wife, you know, because eights have been appearing around me a lot. My wife showed me that even the vultures circling on each side of the freeway, that was a symbol of the 8. It was a symbol of infinity. And then she even broke down how the vulture turned to the side was a womb, but it was like an 8 to me. So,
and what personal year are you in, my brother?
I'm in a personal year 8, just turned 44, and it's a double square, baby. Yeah. So it's all about expansion for me right now. So I have to embrace that. And when you're not comfortable, when you're not comfortable with yourself, then that's really that's the challenge. When you're comfortable with yourself and you accept, when you accept it and you accept that you are the God. You are a piece of God. We're all a piece of what we consider God. We're a piece of that construct. So it is what it is. So that's my
Anybody else?
We want to thank Brother LaCrest for that testimony.
Brother Imhotep say yes.
Yeah, man, I just wanted to say, I think a part of the fear is when you're in fear, you give up part of your power. So one of the things I realized, and I think I told Bob this about a year or so ago, is, and I shared this with some people and they were looking at me like I was crazy, so I went to Bible with it. And it's like, people have to understand that all the stuff you're looking for is inside of you. So pretty much it's like, you don't work for the Orisha work for you. And if we too stuck in like spookism, a lot of people come with the concept of, oh, I gotta go and I got a bag and I work for them. No, don't get it twisted. They work for you.
That's right.
That's where it's supposed to be.
That's right.
That's right.
You the God, they work for you.
That's right.
And then if you don't understand that, then they will mess with you because it's like you're not ready for their assistance because you're on some neophyte stuff. So, don't get it twisted. They work for you. That's what I want.
Cuss them out. Cuss them out. And you bring your ass here.
And one of the things I can say about Brother Maud, Brother Imhotep, and that is, in our conversations, and he may have forgotten this, one of the things that helps him keep his power is that he ain't afraid to tell you what's on his mind, and he got beef with you. Or, I ain't going to say beef, but if y'all went in two opposite directions, and it's something y'all don't agree about, he'll let you know. He'll pull you to the side. He ain't want to get on Facebook, tweet, text, email you about, I got an issue with you, or call his ally on the phone and tell him about so-and-so is a bad. You know what? That's a sign of, I'm going to keep my power with me. I'm not going to give it away to you because I got beef with you, I don't like you, or you mad at me. I'm going to confront you with it. And the reason why I think we get along about that is because that's one of the things I've always tried to do. I don't need an audience. Hey man, let me holler at you for a second. We don't hate each other. Obviously there's a misunderstanding on some level. That is also part of your personal power. You're keeping your personal power. And the more you will throw that over here in this direction, or throw it over there in that direction, never deal with the issue, that brings in a lot of fear. Because it says one thing, I don't really want to deal with the real issue. Ashe? We're getting ready to sign off here. Was there anything anybody else had something to say? Bob Dowry, you want to close?
One thing. Just to put it in perspective, when we was talking about thought, Jehudi and thought in the mind, I always remember that a Rumila would be associated with Jehudi. So he's the scribe. So it's dealing with that aspect of your mind that brings forth your destiny.
Okay. We want to thank everybody for coming. We got a text in from one of the ears that's watching the class, and she said, she sent out a big yes, that this was still part of the conference. And in the spirit of some of the things that was the workshops was about, and some of the things that Sister Yvonne even mentioned, and some of the things that we all kind of kicked around, the energy we got from the Bembe, all of that it's still an extension of it. And so I know Baba Dare wasn't available for the conference. He was out over in the other side of the world doing what he does. So want to give a big round of applause for Baba Dare for teaching. Are we going to pass a hat for him, Rev? Are you going to be his agent?
Yeah.
Here we go.
Give 5. I take 2. You get 3.
Comments.
Okay, we got some comments coming in.
All right, let me just go ahead and read them. One person said there's no such thing as an atheist if they believe in energy. Energy cannot be created nor destroyed. What is that? Good to see Femi and Dare together again. That's another person. One person said, I would argue that fear is the universe's way of preserving the organism. It is a conservation energy. Fear is not bad if you are on the edge of a cliff. Fear makes you aware of the environment you are currently in.
That's what we said about the dog and thing.
Yeah.
What are you really afraid of, the cliff or the fact that the wind might blow you off,
Right.
or that you got the notion to jump?
As far as that fear thing, I agree with that 100%.
I agree with that. It's another part of it.
That's all it is.
Okay.
I mean, if anybody who's looking, if they have any question, they can we can.
So if anybody out there that's looking, have tuned in, if you have any questions before we close out,
just add a comment.
Or add a comment.
That's where we get your questions, in the comment area.
In the meantime and in between time, anybody that's present want to make a donation to the Juju shop.
If you already have it.
For the electricity, there's AC blowing and there's 95-degree temperature.
Also, I'd like to add that I am scheduled to be in Seattle, Washington in the next 8-9 days. I will be in Seattle.
Sure.
I think I'm supposed to be arriving on the 22nd or 23rd of this month. So I look forward to meeting some of the people that I have not met in Seattle.
Ashe.
So Ashe.
Ashe.
Oh, and for those in Los Angeles, I will be in LA around the 1st of August.
Ashe.
Ashe?
Sure.
Is that it?
Yeah, can we sign?
No comment? So with that said, we're getting ready to sign off. Hope everybody's got the understanding of some of the things that we said. Again, it's still within the spirit of some of the things we've been talking about throughout the year. Again, we were fortunate to have Baba Dare available to expand on some of the areas that we want to go in. And again, it's the concept that we were talking about is the mind. And any further comments that you may have during the week or during his stay, he's here in the U.S. till August the 10th.
Correct.
He's here in the U.S. till August the 10th. You want to give your number? He does now have a U.S. number.
Somebody know it because they was called.
We're going to give his number and then we're going to sign off. Baba Dare number is 832-366-5138. You're doing numerology in Christ Seed. He's also doing the numerology reports and the Christ Seed reports during his stay here to August the 10th. Even after August the 10th, he's still available to do those. But while you have him here on his own U.S. phone, Ashe.
What's the number again? Say it again.
Oh, the number again is 832-366-5138. Ashe.
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 Hey, that ran smooth right there.